Take a seat with us at the Founders Table. I'm Stefan Bunch.
And I'm Drew Sanford. And today we are having an awesome conversation and we are continuing our series. We talked originally about the 80-20 rule,
Yes.
which was awesome. It was learning how that I feel like most people probably actually work 20% of their time, and how do we become 80% more effective instead of only living in the 20. Then the second one, we talked about time management, positive, neutral, negative. That was a great one on learning about how to get your output up and does it really self-analyze and see if you're being productive.
Yeah, and then the last one we talked about that we had was about bringing employees on, bringing a team on, and making sure you're really clear with the values and the vision for your company, for yourself, and then clear for the expectations of what they need to do in order to be the most productive as possible.
Yeah,
so I'm excited. Today we're going to have a conversation. We talked about bringing a team on, but we're going to talk about how we can become more than ourselves. As a small business owner, as somebody that's really starting to build something out, we can do a lot on our own, and we're very passionate. And we think that we can conquer the world, but truly it takes more than just ourselves. And so how can we build a team to do that? So I'm excited about this conversation today.
I love it. This is truly kind of the start of scaling your business as an owner, creating time, which is what we all want to do, right? We'd all love to have a business running and working for us, and then we get to go do what we want to do. And then also just becoming more as a Christian, as a husband, as a business owner, and maybe a little bit more than that too.
Yeah, truly. And it's a phrase that we hear often, but it truly takes a village. When we talk about raising kids, it takes a village. When we talk about our faith, it takes a village. And the same is true with running a business. And so I'm excited for the convo today. And I think as we start this conversation, as you're starting a business, as you're building something, right at the very beginning, you have to have every hat on. You've got to be HR, you've got to be the visionary, you've got to be the technician, you've got to be marketing, all the things.
Yep.
And as your business starts to grow and as we start to produce more, we have to really find out what lanes we need to stay in and then what lanes we need to put other people in those places.
Yeah, there's always successful people that you can figure out a niche or something, a marketing person, right? You can work from home, you get some clients, you just kind of do your own thing, you make good money, it is what it is. But odds are those people aren't watching this podcast, right? Like this is designed around how to scale your business, how to grow your faith, how to grow your family, how to be a good dad, things along those lines. And I feel like with what we're looking at is, you can't be a super productive person and do everything. You can't be, you could do everything okay, but you can't do anything as an expert.
Yeah, you're going to run yourself ragged. And I think we've all had those experiences. And part of it is just the journey. Like when you're starting, you don't have the budget, you don't have the finances to bring somebody on. You're just grinding. And it's a season of starting a business.
Yeah, and it's fun. I mean, it's fun, but like there's also a point that you have to say, we got to switch, we got to flip the script and start this somehow, right?
Exactly.
And if you have a business, and I've used a lot of plumbers or whatever, if you're the expert at that field or whatever that work is that you do, at some point you have to start becoming more as a leader, as a visionary for the business. And that doesn't mean some foo-foo-y whatever, but like you got to know where you want to be, what you want to do, and you have to have that vision, and you got to lay it out. You got to be successful at that. And in today's day and age, we talked about it a little bit last week with AI and stuff like that. It is not hard to come up with some wicked cool business plans. I mean, you could take word vomit that I throw out there, and it creates great sounding content for your business, right? So it's not hard. It's not like we have to do this magical stuff. So I really love it. I think I think the big point of this is putting the right shoe on the right foot and starting to take steps and putting one step in front of the other.
Yeah, I think as your business starts to really snowball and get bigger and grow, you move past a stage where you're able to work with each client personally. Because as the business owner, you cared the most about the transaction, the most about the client.
Yep.
And it's a scary thing and a hard thing to start to build something that's beyond yourself to where you're actually handing off items because you care the most about more than anybody else in the room, right?
Yep.
And so I want to have a conversation about how do we find our lane and how do we put technicians in place in order to make sure that we're as we're growing, we're still providing the best service as possible, because we all know the only way to have a successful business is to replicate service. You gain clients and then you keep clients.
Yep.
And if you can't do those things well, then the business is not going to last long.
Yeah.
And so how do we do that?
Yeah, a lot of times clients, they're buying you and your vision and what you're all about, things like that, right? Yeah. And I think this loops right back into last week's podcast. Check it out, episode 3. It talks about your staff and the people around you, right? Hiring good people, creating boundaries around good people, giving people lanes to stay in, things like that. And I go back to one of the real key takeaways that may not have been really said well in that is time. You need to have employees that watch you make decisions and they know the decision you're going to make before you make them. When you get your team around people like that, even if you're not there in the here and now in a situation with a client, but they know, oh, Drew's going to do this, or oh, Stefan's going to do that. This is what they would do. That's a good spot to be in. Now, I'm not saying they have to always do it. You know, they don't have to always just be sheep and follow exactly what you say. You want people to have their own opinions and make good decisions, things like that on their own. Yeah. But you've kind of set those parameters around people as they've developed and grown around you. And you can't do that without having a good foundation. And a good foundation is they watch you, they learn from you, they see that. You've written out job descriptions, they know their role, they know their place in the business, things along those lines. So I think that's a core foundation just to kind of start with. If you're going to not be there every single day in every single task, the people that are around you, you have to do a good job putting their guardrails, building a good foundation for them to get that established. Yeah,
absolutely. How many times have we met a plumber or a business owner that's really good at their craft, and they if the world knew about them, then they would be the most successful person in their craft. I think there's so many business owners that care and they're really good at what they do, but they do have blind spots. And so it's about finding the team around you that's going to uplift you in those blind spots. Somebody might be really good at electrician, but they don't have anybody that's telling other people about them. They don't have anybody that's marketing them. Yep. And then some people, they're really good at leading a company or leaders on their team, and so their job is really to just make the connections so that their technicians can do the work. Yeah. And so how do we build the team in order for us to kind of have our people to stay in our lanes? Yeah. Especially as an owner, like you're starting to give up a few things as well.
You are, and there's two ways to look at it. There's a group of owners that say, look, I'm a plumber, if we're going down that example today. I'm a plumber. I like unclogging toilets. That's my thing. I love doing that. Or I love laying new pipe in big businesses and, new corporate, whatever. That's their lane. Flip that. The owner may be the most great communicator, loves talking to people, but when they're around, their employees are going, will you just go talk to the owner over there of the construction project or the foreman and let us do the job? So you have to analyze what your skill set is and what you bring to the table, and then what the people around you bring to the table. If you're the one that's great at talking and doing that, you need to stay in that lane. If you're the one that's really good at doing the actual work or whatever that is, and that's what you love, then get somebody to go do the talking for you. Yeah. And that's the thing, is you have to self-analyze and say, look, who do I want to be when I grow up, right? And I want to be this person, I want to be that person. And one of the hardest things, and something that took me a lot of years in business, is once you start establishing this, it is dangerous, and it's so easy. It is so easy as an owner to make this mistake, is to start jumping lanes. Well, I'm the owner, I can do what I want. Yeah, you can, but a lot of times you cause a lot more problems than good. If you say, I'm going to be the one that goes out and talks to the customers and tries to do stuff, if I have to go help and get a job done because we're really busy, I can always go throw my work gear on and get it done and buckle down and help. Yeah. That being said, though, if you're over there trying to tell people what to do, how to do it, and then you're over here trying to do this and you're not there when you need to have decisions made, then all of a sudden you create this break in the system and the chain. So then the staff, are they listening to the person in charge? Who's in charge? Who's doing this? Who's doing that? And then you have a whole bunch of employees that are like, well, I'm not empowered to do what I need to do. Absolutely. And now all of a sudden you have a breakdown. And I think that's where a lot of business owners first get stuck, is they have their hand in all the cookie jars. And instead, you got to let people, and you got to empower people to do it. Right, wrong, or indifferent, they got to be empowered to do it. Put a whole point. There's nothing wrong. I came from a manufacturing background. There's no problem with putting a whole point and saying, hey, Bob, you're over there running this project. You and the other 3 guys are doing this. When you get to here, call me. I want to see it before you move forward. There's not a problem in the world with that. You go over there, guess what? Now you trust Bob. Or, hey, here's a teachable moment. We all love teachable moments. Yeah. Here's a teachable moment. You guys did it this, and this way. I would have done it this, and this way. On the next job, I want to see you do this. Easy conversations, not mean conversations. Great.
It's growth conversations.
Absolutely.
Yeah, one thing I like about our structure that we're really building at Elevate is that we have put certain people in places to where they're going to make sure things are done well. So as we're growing and, the average agent is probably working with 1 to 2 clients at a time. And obviously our goal is to work with as many people as possible. But we also want to make sure it's as personal as possible.
Mm-hmm.
And so what we do is we create a system in which our agents have the marketing side handled.
Mm-hmm.
Like they're going to market the property, but there's a whole team behind them that's really marketing the thing. And then when it comes to having a contract, we have a compliance team that is working through all the documents, making sure everything is perfect and tidy to where they're saving time. They're with the client more rather than doing some of the back end stuff. Mm-hmm. And so we can create a system for each person to really hone in on their skill set and what they care about the most. And then our agents can be out with the clients making those connections. And I think it's the same in any business.
Yeah.
As long as you structure it correctly, you can put the right people in the right place. But it does take very intentional when it comes to planning. And it takes us giving up some of our, as the owner, we want to be involved in every single step of the way.
Yeah.
So,
but you got to have the trust behind it, right? Yeah. And that's what we're trying to help talk about. And my goal is if we can have this conversation, and I use a lot of these things with coaching and different conversations in different businesses I've owned, different businesses I've been a part of, and we try to help. Half of it's step one, right? Just knowing the problem exists and there's something there. Just having these conversations with you and I and our followers, it just allows people to think about that. And whether you take all this or say that you guys are a bunch of idiots and I take this little sliver, that little sliver, it's at least a conversation. I think it will help people develop and grow. Yeah. And that's the point of this conversation, I feel like. And something I want to talk about on the real estate side, we went to the Keller Williams thing out in Vegas this year, which was awesome. And there was an interesting stat, and it's something like I've always believed in the different businesses I've came from. Like I've never came from like a true, like we've built commercial properties, we've built businesses, we've bought a lot, stuff like that. But I've never been on like the actual realtor side. Going to some of these real estate conferences, they were talking about how some of the top producing agents, they may spend a lot less time with their actual client, but the client feels fulfilled on that, based on communication and how they talk and how they handle themselves. And that's something I think business owners need to understand. That being a good representative for your client or helping work with your, with those people, that doesn't mean coddling them and being on the phone with them 10 hours a day and talking to them and talking to them and talking to them and beating on them and talking and talking and talking. That doesn't do it. It's how you communicate with people. It's understanding. You're really, really good at this. You understand, is this a high needs client? Is this a lower needs client? Are they an A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P, personality, whatever they all are? And you really look at how you can communicate with those people the best way. And I think as you develop and as you become a better business person, understanding your client and your person that you're dealing with and understanding how they want to talk, I think that's some of the best. I think that's the best communication you can give. And you still can give fantastic service with less time with technology, with less time with other employees, simple text messages, things along those lines.
Yeah, and we'll talk about that later in this series. We actually work with a guy that talks a lot about personality traits and how to communicate well with your clients. I think that's
Did I nail the personality traits a second ago?
Yeah, it was pretty good.
A through Z.
We've got them all. But no, that's so true. How do you make the most of the conversation rather than just make a lot of fluff in the conversation? Just hit the points, make sure your clients feel well, and we're moving on in the transaction.
Yeah, and it completely depends on the client. It completely depends on the industry, things like that. We're throwing a sweeping statement out there, but at the end of the day, I'm going to go back to the 80-20 rule. If you can identify the sliver of where that client is and say this person likes to talk this way instead of that way, well, if you're trying to talk to everybody because maybe you're a type of person that likes all the details and all the stuff, but you're talking to somebody that's just a quick decision maker, you may be wasting hours of your time, and they may be annoyed and they don't even feel like they're getting good service from you while you're trying to provide above and beyond service. So really understanding some of that stuff, this is business 2.0, 3.0, 4.0 level stuff that as you develop your business and you go from onesie, twosie, 3 employees and you start scaling this, like you need to understand that not everybody works in the same world that you work in, and you have to have that self-awareness of that to be a real high producing successful leader.
Absolutely. And I think the same thing is true in our family and in our faith as well. When it comes to having the right people in your corner, I mean, I can name countless people that I've had blind spots in my faith, in my raising my child, in my role as a husband, and I've got people that I trust that I allow to speak into my life and influence me that have helped me so much along the way. They make it to where I don't have to make the mistake that maybe they made or somebody else made. They speak that into you in order for you to be able to dodge some things or to be more intentional in some of your areas of life. And so I think even as we're talking about, as we're building a business, it takes a village. It takes having the right people in the right place.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the exact same thing in every area of our life.
It does. To be a good leader, there's things that you have to be able to answer and ask and talk about. And I think having awareness of some of the stuff, what is your vision? Where are you going? How are you getting there? Those are all questions that if you can't ask those just overarching big questions, those are issues. And I go back to, a lot of times you end up in a business just because I want to have a tree service and I'm going to make money on the side. Well, then all of a sudden that turns into real money, and then the real money turns into running around cutting on trees, and you lose the stuff around you. Well, as you try to build a village and you try to become something more with your business, you have to be able to answer those types of questions. And I think that's. You don't have to be a visionary of some great scale, but those are things that if you're a business owner, you have to start answering those. And does that apply just to business?
No, not at all. It's got to be every area of your life. And I think the thing that's about this podcast that's a little bit different is, I think we can all grind for a certain amount of time and build something. We can all work really hard, put the hours in, and build something. But for us, what we're trying to do is build something sustainable, build something that's going to have a legacy, build something that's going to last. And I think if we build it with the right foundation, we're going to find those results, even if it makes it a little more challenging today.
Yeah.
It would be really nice to just run 100% on one area and just on the business, forget about everything else in life, and see how far we can go. But we know that that's not the route. And so sometimes it takes a little bit more intentionality in how we spend our time and who we're putting into our lives in order to make something that's going to last. So you're exactly right. In every area, friendships, whatever, it's the same thing.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I think, this one hits me. We were making the script and working on that today. And gosh, man, again, it goes back to, we focus so much on business and how do we do this and how do we do that. And I think at the end of the day, truly your walk with faith and your family, putting that time towards that with this and being a man and being a leader of your household and directing, your family, your kids, and leading through that, just flipping the script and saying, where are we going? Where are we going today as a family? What's our goal? I've got a kid that's doing X, Y, or Z, or my wife and I aren't as close as we used to be, and we need to, we need to go on dates or whatever that is. The intentionality between just living life and, okay, my work's really busy and everything's happening, and I'm just going to go home and kind of check out, and it is what it is. Yeah. Putting that into your family is such an important thing. And I feel like that's been weighing on me a lot. I have been trying more. We've got your Wheel of Fortune that you've done with yours, and I've been trying to do, what is it, Wheel of Momentum?
There you go.
There it is, Wheel of Momentum. Your Wheel of Momentum's awesome, and I think it just brings awareness back to me and my family, and what are we doing to try to be intentional about whatever it may be in our walk with Jesus and family in general. And to me, they go hand in hand, just trying to be good leaders and a good father.
Yeah, and I think as business owners, it can get lonely at times. We have different stresses that maybe people don't always see. And because of that, maybe we just kind of don't share as openly with some people.
Yeah.
And I think that for us, I've got somebody in my life that has walked through hard things with me. And he is somebody that can text me at any point and call out any blind spot, and I'm going to listen to him, right? I think that the same when it comes to you and I even, when we see things in each other, we're like, hey, let's kind of dive into that and make sure we're all good. It takes having that vulnerability, but also those people in your life that you can trust full, knowing that they have your best interest in mind, even if they're going to tell you hard things.
Yeah.
And so I think it's just so important for us within our company to have those people that are covering our blind spots, that when we know, hey, this lane is not the skill set that I have, I need somebody to fill this lane well. It's the exact same thing in our faith and in our walk with our family and everything.
Yeah, I think you nailed it. And I think business owners at a bigger scale, we some of us are super duper outgoing, and some of us are reclusive, and there's everybody in between, and we all have ADD of some sort, right? Yeah. And to communicate and connect with people, like a lot of times people aren't always on our same wavelength of what's happening, right? Like even like a spouse, right? Like you get home and it's like, I've had a bad day, just leave me alone. Well, you're not trying to hide it.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's just not worth having the conversation, 'cause it's like, I just don't want to talk about work. I want to be at home and be at home.
Yeah. When you're stressed about payroll and all kinds of things coming up and you're like, I just don't need to add this to the conversation right now. I just want to chill.
I know, I've always been a Christian, grew up in church, things like that. Was I the best Christian through a section of my life? Absolutely not, right? And after really getting and diving back into faith over the last few years, seeing that and going to God, because at some point I need help. I can't do this on my own. I've tried to be Superman. It doesn't work, right? Like that's not going to happen. I've came to that realization, that happened to me. That being said, we got into church, we got plugged into a small group. That's where me and you met, so we've got to build those connections. Now at church, we have our kids in all the different programs, they have friends, we have friends, and there's this whole community around that you can connect with, right?
Yeah.
Well, in business, it's not always the same thing. But to me, what I've learned is God wants you to have those relationships and those connection points and those people around you. And when you pigeonhole yourself into situations in business, for me, this is a me thing. I did the same thing with my family. I did the same thing in faith. I'm gonna throw it on my back and I'm gonna get myself out of this situation, come hell or high water. And it doesn't work. You just end up burying yourself and stuff.
Yeah.
And I think having that realization, it doesn't matter if the conversation's your family. It doesn't matter if the conversation's your walk in Christ or if it's your business. You can't do that. You have to find those people and have those connections with you. And if you're struggling to get that, you need to have a reality check on how to get the people around you and who to talk to. And it doesn't mean you have to come in and have consultants or whatever that is in your business, but you need to find people that you can go, who are some of your old friends that you can go talk to about bouncing some ideas off. You can go meet with your pastor, bounce some ideas off of them, I'm sure, so how do you find people?
Man, I think it's you find people that have a similar mindset and for me, a big part of that is faith. Like I want to find people that are thinking long-term, that are thinking about legacy, that are thinking about building a family. And what's cool is even through this process of starting this journey is that we found some people that have that same mentality. Yeah. And so I do think it takes work.
It does.
It takes work to find mentors, and it takes work to find people to invest in. And I think that's the other part of it is that just as much as we need to have mentors in our life in order to speak life into us. We need to be doing the same thing for the next generation also.
Yeah, and I think you opened up my eyes to that. We have a group called Kingsman here in our area, in the Missouri area, and they do a great job. And so you get a lot of business owners or high achieving people that come together and do that, and they've got a lot of, it's a faith background thing. And I feel like probably about everywhere in the country, there is situations like that you can go do it. It just takes effort and to go find the group that you want to be a part of and go participate. And you got to put yourself out there, And I think especially when you go work like we all work as business owners and you get out and you start doing that stuff, the last thing you want to do a lot of times is either get up early to go to something or go late and do something. But the value that I think it adds in the opportunities that you'll be able to meet people and connect with people. Sometimes it's weird sticking yourself out there and doing that. And I'm one of the worst about that. You've seen that with me. Like, I'm just like, I like doing my own thing, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. But I do know as I've developed as a person and as I've walked with Christ and as I've tried to lead my family better, those connections mean more than anything because those are where you find people that really have your back and will have those conversations with you and call a spade when they need to and also praise you when you need to be praised.
Absolutely. I mean, we hear it all the time. The 5 people that you're around are who you're going to be in the future. Or something like that.
Yeah,
right?
That was one of the eye-opening things to me is, you are who you're around. And if you look at the 5 people that you spend the most time with, that's who you are. And that was one of the situations that was truly one of the turning points in my life that I looked around the 5 people I spent the most time with and I didn't want to be like some of them. So it was bad. It was not good. And I think that's where, I think that's when you have pivotal moments in life or things like that. And then the question becomes, well, what do I got to do? And I didn't know what to do. I mean, I ended up going going, we went and my wife had a feeling to go to this church. I always wanted to try it. We drove by and loved it. The pastor was amazing. And that's how we started this whole connection.
Yeah.
And 2 years later, 3 years later, I mean, it's enormous how it's impacted and changed my life.
For sure, yeah. And it's not just looking for the people that have the most money to be around either.
Yeah.
Some of the most successful people we know are the most miserable people and have put just hell through their family through hell, right?
Yep.
Like it's important for us to look at not just the net worth, but like who are the people.
Yeah. And a lot of this is momentum and taking micro wins and compounding them and compounding them and compounding them. Momentum is such a big tool in life, and it doesn't matter if it's faith. It's funny because I have the Bible app on my phone, and it's like I get to like day 87 or whatever it is, and if like I miss a day or something,
you fall off the map.
Oh, it crushes you.
It's me with the gym, man. If I can be consistent, dude, I can hit
20 days in, buddy, I got it.
Then I miss 1 or 2 days, and then it's over.
Game over.
Then Planet Fitness is calling me like, "Hey, you haven't been here for 348 days. You okay?" You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, sure. Take my money. I'm going to go tomorrow.
No, they take my money whether I know it or not. Anyway, but yeah, you're exactly right. Momentum. We talked about gaining mentors and putting people around us. It's not just, it doesn't take, just jumping into a group. It's taking that first step of reaching out to somebody through email or Facebook or texting them and say, "Hey, would you be up for a cup of coffee?" And just starting the conversation about.
And what's the worst that's going to happen?
Yeah.
Like they're going to say, "No, I'm busy." You know what I mean? Like I look at like outbound stuff like that, and this is back to business world, but like when people get nervous to do something like that, like just take the first step and see what happens. It's amazing. It is truly amazing in whatever world it is. When you just put yourself out there a little bit, what opportunities you find. And I think to grow you as a person, to find those people and say, "Look, I really admire this person," or "He really looks good, like he's doing this type of stuff for us," or here's a faith-based author that I'd really like to meet, his local. It's amazing reaching out to people and just connecting with them and hearing what you hear.
Yeah, and people that have started something, that built something, they're going to appreciate you reaching out. Nobody's going to be like, "Oh, don't ever talk to me again."
Yep.
If they are, then that's not the person we want to be around anyway.
Yep.
But I mean, the people that reach out to us, it's like exciting. It's like, man, they're going to build something. They're putting it out there. They're trying their best. Like they're growing something. And people that do that will appreciate that, and they'll want to jump in most likely. So I'm with you. Yeah. And so I think it's that. It's those small steps to gain momentum in order to get to that next step. Did you watch the game last night?
I didn't. I watched Formula One.
Yeah. Well, the Chiefs played on Friday and they lost. It was terrible. But last night.
I am a football fan. I went to Alabama and it was not good the first week. And then I watched the Chiefs game and they lost. So I was like, well, maybe it's me.
It might be you. Yeah. So you can't watch the Chiefs game next week.
I'm going to turn football off for a couple days and just make sure.
But here's the thing. So last night, the Ravens and the Bills were playing.
Yep.
Two of my least favorite teams. I hate both of them. The Ravens were up like 40-25 with maybe 4 minutes left in the game. And they run down the field, get a quick score. They're down still by 2 possessions. They hand the Ravens get the ball back, surefire thing. They hand it off to Derrick Henry, who's their big running back. He's gonna win the game. He fumbles it. They gain that momentum. So like they score right off the bat. The defense is juiced. They just smashing people. Derrick Henry fumbles it. They go back down for the score. Then their defense stops them again. The Ravens punt. And they've got 30 seconds or whatever. They get all the way down the field, kick the field goal, and win. It was crazy to see how a football game is a perfect example of this because momentum is huge.
Yeah.
One team, they're not changing their game plan. Yep. They're not changing their players. They're not changing what they're in the lead. They're feeling like they're going to walk it home. And the other team is like, no, we're going to push harder. And as they do, the momentum literally I don't know what it is.
And you can't explain it because it's just, and
you feel it. Yeah. You're like, man, I think they have a real shot at this. 4 minutes ago, I didn't feel like they did.
Yep.
Now I feel like they absolutely do. And I think the same is true for business and for our lives, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Momentum is such a big thing, whether it's faith, whether it's business, whether it's our family, the micro wins, you just got to keep going back to those and you got to be grateful, and gratitude is a big part of that. Something my dad's always said, like, take a note, like whatever your goals are, whatever that is, write them down, put them in your pocket. And every time you reach in your pocket and you feel that piece of paper, you're thinking about your goals. And guess what happens? After time, it comes into something, and it turns into reality.
Yeah.
I think my encouragement for our listeners this week is look at what you're grateful for. God's blessed everybody, no matter what. Look at some of the stuff that you have gratitude for, and then think about how that might turn into momentum, and how can you create gratitude and turn gratitude into momentum for you.
Yeah. And if you're like on the bottom level, you're like, man, I don't know if there's anything I'm grateful for. You can literally say, I'm grateful for the breath in my lungs. I'm grateful to be in this country where we have the freedoms that we have. Like, nobody can walk around without
100%.
Something to be grateful for.
100%.
So you could be on the brink of losing your business, and still, this is something that you can apply to your life today.
Yep.
And I think it's going to change. Like, it'll change the momentum as you start to really state and see what you're grateful for.
Yep. And it goes back to our micro wins, right? If you're grateful and you have gratitude for things and you can add micro wins, then guess what happens? Yeah. Momentum.
It starts to grow.
Yep. Thank you so much. It's been a great podcast.
Yeah.
We really appreciate you watching the Founders Table and listening to the Founders Table. We've really started to pick up on the audience size and the messages that we're getting from people. It's really cool to see us grow. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you guys next week.